Eagles. Eagles.
And welcome in, everybody, to a Thursday edition of Birds 365 here on JAKIB Sports. I'm your host, Zander Krause. That's my co-host, John McMullen, here with you live for a Thursday edition of the show. We got a great show planned for you today. It'll be a little bit of a draft day here on Birds 365. We got the great Rick Saratella coming up in a little bit in hour number one. Johnny Mac, how you doing on this Thursday morning, my friend?
All drafted up, man. Let's get it going. With Rick Saratella, NFL Draft Bible. Talk a little Caleb Downs. Talk a little Jeremiah Love. Fernando Mendoza.
Yeah, Mendoza, Johnny Mac. We'll see what happens with the NFL draft coming up. John, anything particular jumping out about the draft this year for you, my friend? We got Rick coming up. We're going to talk to him. We got the Combine kicking off next week. The Underwear Olympics, as they're now widely regarded as. But anything sticking out to you in this draft season so far? Anything excite you about the potential of what will unfold in the next 60, 90 days?
Well, I've been mentioning, and we'll talk to Rick and get his feeling, but, wide receivers all over the place. So, a lot of things have to happen for that to be relevant for the Eagles. But even if they bring A.J. Brown back, which I believe is the goal, you're still going to have to replace Jahan Dotson in a role that should be at least projected to be more meaningful under Sean Mannion in a Kyle Shanahan-like offense. Might not work out that way, but that's what you're building toward. So it could be relevant on day two, and you should have a bunch of guys to pick from, tight ends as well. You might have to remake the tight end room now. Evidently Dallas Goedert's open to returning, so that's interesting as well. So what does that contract look like at 31 years old? I don't know. Can they go much higher than $10 million? I don't know. Did he earn more than $10 million? I would think so. 13 touchdowns? I would think so. So that might be a market situation. And obviously, if you don't bring back Dallas Goedert, then you got to remake that whole room. Let's be honest. I mean,
yeah, completely.
Kylan Granson was such a good special teams player last year. I wouldn't mind bringing him back on a 1-year deal for the veteran minimum to be the third tight end and help on special teams. But you can't run it back with Grant Calcaterra, I don't think, at this stage. So if you don't have both of them, and everybody in that group is a free agent, a pending free agent, it's going to be a lot different at tight end. And maybe that's the way the Eagles want to go, because they don't have a lot of wiggle room to make big changes on that offense from a personnel perspective. And they might have to. On the offensive line, wide receiver, tight end. It's going to be an offensive tinted draft. I'm pretty comfortable saying that.
You mean for the Eagles, right?
Yes.
Yeah, not just that overall. Well, it's going to be interesting, John. I mean, that Goddard stuff is definitely definitely something that could or could not happen. But what do you think the Eagles should do there? You think they should try and bring him back, or is that time to turn the page and get your future tight end?
Well, they need to get a future tight end either way. Obviously, it would be a short-term answer, and I'm surprised they didn't try to get it last year after everything that went on, because, there was the perception was he was going to be leaving for the majority of the time, right up until he acquiesced and took the pay cut. So I'm kind of surprised they didn't start it last year. You think about, when Zach Ertz was here and they drafted Dallas in the second round, you had that succession plan in place. You don't have that now, and you're up against it. So either way, I think they got to add a meaningful body at tight end, or try to add a meaningful body, whether that's in the draft or free agency. But they got more needs than usual. At least over the past, 4 years or so. They have more to do than they usually have to do. And that obviously means you probably can't get it all done. So we'll see how they swing it.
Yeah, it's gonna be. I mean, his market value, John. Now these companies, I don't know how to tell whether they're even close or not, but it's lower. On the website that says like 7+. I think it says 7.5 million.
What these guys? What I got to get Spielberger back, man.
Off. I mean, I think they do some good work though. I see them on. I see the main guy from Spotrac on X a lot. I mean, it feels like they're plugged in and have a good. Doesn't mean they are, but it feels like they are. Let me look it up just to make sure I'm accurate for you. But market value, yeah, wow, even worse. Market value is 1 year, $6 million.
Well, if they can get him for 1 year, $6 million, yeah, I'd bring him back.
I'm doing that. Yeah, me too.
So
that can't be the money though.
I don't know. It seems. Maybe it's me. I don't pay as much attention to that stuff as other people do, but I don't. Everything seems low to me. Everything. Jaylen Phillips at 17.3 is ridiculous. That's like okay. That's like you're not adding in the context of. ESPN just ranked him as the third best free agent on the market in the lack of available options past Jaylen Phillips on the free agent market and his age. It's like, all right, if you just looked at him and didn't know all that and said, yeah, all right, he's worth about 17 million. Then maybe I agree with it, but that doesn't take into account the reality of the world. I mean, what are we doing here? 1 year, $6 million. If these are right, I get everybody back. Bring everybody back. They got Jalen Carter at 21 million. As I just pulled this up, and Jordan Davis at 20.4 million. Are you fucking kidding me? Like, I'm not picking on Spot Rack, but are you fucking kidding me? Yeah, I am. And don't get me wrong, they do a great job with contracts and the numbers and the information of the actual contracts. But I'm going to recommend deleting that link because those values are goofy.
Well, we'll see what ends up happening, Johnny Mac. It is interesting to see the numbers. Maybe are we inflating them too much, John? Is there a chance we're wrong?
Well, there's always a chance you're wrong. If Jaylen Phillips gets 17 million on the open market, I will be shocked.
Yeah,
I will be shocked.
I don't even think that's possible.
If Jordan Davis is within $1 million, if they both sign extensions, and Jordan Davis is within $1 million of Jaylen Carter, under $1 million, basically 500,000, I might have a heart attack. That I'm 100% sure of. Barring off the field issues, Jalen's got some issues sometimes, but mainly due to maturity. But you get the point, just from a football standpoint. Because of his age, Dallas Goedert's a little bit tougher to gauge because people don't want to pay older players. But coming off the year he had, and he's going to go down to $6 million. Yeah, I'm not buying it. Brett, on the other hand, they got Brett Toth at $4 million. I don't know if he's going to go that high. They got Marcus Epps at $3 million. I think they're going to be more veteran minimum guys. I think Jahan Dotson's going to get more than 1 year and 2.6 again because of the age. Yeah, I don't. Sorry, guys. I don't value that. It's too goofy.
Agreed. We'll see what they end up doing. John, a little bit of Eagle news happened yesterday. Another defensive coach departed, this time to the Las Vegas Raiders. What can you tell us, J-Mac?
Yeah, Rennell Williams, Eagles defensive assistant for the last 3 years. So he was here the year before Vic got here. Actually started out as the Nichols coach. They had a slot coach specifically. And that was Rennell. Played at Westchester, by the way. Great player at Westchester locally. And he started out as the Nichols coach, and then when Vic got here, they moved him to assistant linebackers coach. He also quality control, so sort of a double rule. He had interviewed for the Cowboys linebackers job with Christian Parker down there now. Didn't get it, and got the Raiders linebackers job. So good step forward for him in his career. And obviously, there's some guys out there, Anthony Patch and Brandon Hunt went out there from the Eagles personnel department, so he had some familiarity with the guys out there. So, lower level coach that it's not going to resonate with much people, but it looked like the Eagles were permitting him to look for another job. So it's more of that sort of Chris Cooper like thing where, you don't want to fire the guy, but you want to say, you might want to go out and go look at some other opportunities. So that's kind of how I read that.
Man, the shuffling of the deck this year in the coaching department for all teams is like crazy. I mean, you said it. It's what did you call it? It's like or it's
I forget the word. You just shuffle the deck chairs.
Yeah,
it goes from team to team.
Right. That's literally what it's been.
Yeah, it's like that every year, though. It's a little bit, especially with position coaches, it's a little bit increased this year because you had so many changes at the top, and that reverberates because when you hire head coaches, they generally want to bring in as many people as they can that they're comfortable with. So you had 10 openings, and that sort of reverberates down. So it's a little bit more, but it's always this way. It's always this way. And that's why, like again, I don't want to pick on specific guys, but you just see the guys that move from station to station, and they move from 2 to 3 year increments. It's a tough profession because you're going to get blamed. It's not just Philadelphia. You're going to get blamed when the players don't perform, and you're not out there performing. So, you could be the belle of the ball one year like Press Taylor, and then you're the dumbest guy on the planet the next year. That's the way it works. Tough gig.
Yeah, it is a tough gig. No doubt about it. Interesting stuff there, John. With Rick Saratella coming up, John, we're going to talk to him in about a couple minutes here on Birds 365. It's going to be interesting to see the draft process this year, John, with the needs that they have and, the available guys. How do you see free agency? Do you think they make a splash in free agency this year? Doesn't feel like they need to. I mean, unless Jaylen Phillips walks, it really doesn't feel to me like maybe like a middle corner guy, like a $6 to $10 million corner I could see as cornerback 2. But that's really all I see. What do you see in free agency right now for what the Eagles could end up spending there?
Yeah, I think it's going to be more movement, and some of it might be trades. Again, you have to handle the in-house business first. So you got to figure out what you're doing with AJ, figure out what you're doing with Jaylen Phillips, and then it reverberates down from there. Both for free agency and the draft. So it's not just like one or the other, but I do think there'll be more. They tend to be, if you look at their history, they go to the Super Bowl, they lose, you kind of take the foot off the gas a little bit, and they have a down year. Then you go back to the Super Bowl, win the Super Bowl. The urgency was way down after they won the Super Bowl. And now they had a 5-win season, and that's my shtick. I don't know if Rick's getting it. They act like they had a 5-win season, and you have all this, urgency. And I think you will have this urgency. how that manifests itself, whether it's trades. They don't sign Jaylen Phillips, they might go try to get Max Crosby. If they trade AJ Brown, they might go try to get a more relevant receiver. So, but I think the in-house stuff comes first.
You think Mike Evans is an option? Temporary replacement for AJ?
No.
If AJ's out?
Sometimes I hate Philadelphia, man. And Mike Evans is a Hall of Fame player. Mike Evans is, I got to look it up.
He's like 32, I think.
Yeah. No, absolutely not. Absolutely.
Well, who you going to replace AJ Brown with if AJ?
You're not. But first of all, you're not going to replace AJ.
That's what I mean. So you're going to go to the draft? I mean, what are you going to do? I mean, you need to get somebody that's good body that can make catches, make plays.
In theory, you're going to. In theory, and he's going to be 33, which is the key number before September. So it's going to be his age 33 season. He's not coming here. He's going to finish in Tampa, but. Beyond that,
I don't know. I'm hearing from John Cilia works down in Tampa. He said that nobody in Tampa thinks he's going to be in Tampa.
Well, that's fine. I also heard people say he's never snipped a Super Bowl. I don't want to. I mean, yeah. A lot of people talk about things they shouldn't be talking about.
Yeah,
but
very true.
In the standpoint of, the Eagles, they're not going to bring in a 33-year-old wide receiver. They're not.
Even I just think as a temporary, I mean, somebody like that makes more sense to me than putting all your eggs in the draft pick basket.
Well, they're putting all their eggs in the change of the offense, and they're going to go about it a different way. If they trade AJ, all their eggs are in AJ's basket.
Yeah, that's true. I think they want AJ back. Like D Gun said, you've been saying it for a long time here on the show. Good stuff. We'll see what they end up doing. Johnny Mac is out on Mike Evans. Pretty good response there. Fired up J Mac this morning. Let's go to Rick Saratella. We got our boy Rick Saratella set to join us right now here on Birds 365. He joins us here. Rick, welcome to the program, my friend. How you doing on this Thursday morning as we get closer to the Combine, the NFL Draft? It's draft season, baby.
Yeah, top of the morning to you guys. Just enjoying the conversation. I'm looking at the next A.J. Brown in this year's draft class, Chris Bell out of Louisville. Check him out.
There we go.
Got injured
That's
down
what
the
I want to talk
season,
about.
but this guy is just like A.J. Brown, a man amongst boys, yard after catch, a truck to bring down. I think it would be an ideal fit.
Yeah, I mean, it seems to me, Rick, and you know better than me, but I mean, colleges today, there's one thing they're going to develop, and that's receivers. There's receivers all over the place. But through day two, how many guys, you put out your top 100, how many receivers are in that group?
We got about, 14.
14.
Sure. Yeah.
So you got 14. I saw Brugler had 17. I mean, my God, all they do is produce receivers now. If you go into day two of this draft, because that'll be the wheelhouse for the Eagles, and I think they'll want to bring in a receiver even if A.J. Brown is back. So think about the Shanahan-like offense. Pretend you have A.J. back and you have Devontae. So I think they would want a more yards after catch guy, and more maybe a manufactured touch here and there guy. If I'm asking you, Rick Saratella, day two, find me that guy. Who's that guy?
Ooh. Well, day two, you might have a guy like a Zachariah Branch who reminds me of Deshaun Jackson, who's just a speed burner, take the top off of an
that works. That
defense,
works.
Right? Because he would slide right into the number 3 wide receiver role has kind of been a revolving door. But if you got a guy like Branch where you can just throw it downfield, he outruns everybody. You don't necessarily have to be pinpoint accurate. That's a pretty good selection. And Malachi Fields is a complete opposite prospect. Yeah, but if you want someone who can fly and has size and you want to play the boundary, well, then he might be hanging out there in the second round. So those are two guys that come to mind. And I think Denzel Boston has kind of been out of sight, out of mind. He wasn't on the all-star circuit playing out west. NFL bloodlines, we all remember David Boston. Well, some of us do, but some really great depth. And I think even on the top end, I mean, these guys will be off the board once Philadelphia rolls around, but you got different flavors. Carnell Tate, boundary guy, polished route runner, can track the ball extremely well. Mekhi Lemon, I think, is more of a slot weapon at the next level. And then Jordan Tyson, who all he does is make plays, but he gets hurt every year. So you got to kind of weigh that in and factor it into the equation.
What do you think of Concepcion? Because I love him as a sort of.
Yeah, he's twitchy. I think he's going to be a slot guy, but good route runner, good hands, shiftiness, elusive in the open field. I got him right now, number 9 on my big board in the wide receiver.
Yeah, so he's not going to make it to the second round, I don't think. But how many? Who's your top guy at wide receiver?
I like Carnell Tate. I mean, Ohio State's just been a wide receiver factory. And what's crazy is, like, we'll be here next year at this time talking about his counterpart and how much better he is. And Jeremiah
even more,
Smith.
yeah.
It's just unbelievable. But to me, I feel like Tate is as good, if not a better prospect than Emeka Egbuka. And so to me, like, I could see him going in the top 10, possibly top 5. You know, I did the Giants show last night. They're looking for another wide receiver weapon, and Carnell Tate's been a guy kind of mentioned at number 5, so he could go that high.
Yeah,
well, you mixed up Carnell Tate with Neighbors, and woof.
Yeah, it's going to be a good group. Rick, you brought up a name I love, and Chris Bell. Talk to me about that process, because I think he's much better than where he'll probably be drafted. For those who don't know, he's got an ACL. I think he just had surgery in December, if I'm not mistaken, on his ACL. How much do you expect him to fall, and how much does that stuff impact, draft picks in today's day and age? I feel like in the modern age, ACLs aren't as scary as they once were, but obviously it's going to hurt your draft stock in the year that you're taking. That to me, it seems like a Howie pick. You get some good value in the 3rd round for maybe a first-round player. How do you grade Chris Bell if you didn't have the ACL, and how do you grade him post ACL, and where do you think he might go?
Well, pre-ACL, he would actually be in contention as the number 1 wide receiver on my board. I think he's that talented. And 2 years ago, I went down to Louisville training camp. Tyler Shuck was there. They got a bunch of players. They had another wide receiver that was a transfer from Alabama, and I'm talking to the coaches, and they're telling me all the players, and this is after practice now, and I go, Coach, you didn't mention number 0. Like, he's the best player out here. And he's like, yeah, he's going to come back for another year. He's got a few screws loose. He really is a fiery guy, gets in teammates' faces, maybe had a couple fist fights. And I'm like, damn, I like that from my wide receiver. Just a feisty, angry animal. I compare, like, he's much larger, but in terms of play style, think of Steve Smith on steroids.
Oh, like, boy.
That's how this guy runs after the catch. It's just really, you talk about size, speed, breaking tackles, ability. I would not be surprised if Chris Bell winds up being the best wide receiver from this year's draft class. Now, with the ACL, I agree with you. You got guys coming back 6 months, 8 months, 9 months. But to me, you really don't get back to full pre-injury form. I think it takes more like 2 years to really come back entirely from that injury. And you mentioned like a guy like Malik Neighbors, how much can you really bank on that guy, especially at the start of the season? So Giants might need a wide receiver. Chris Bell can get dinged because of that. And I think that's a big part of going out to Indianapolis next week, right, is that medical evaluation. And I think depending on what those results bring back will dictate how comfortable NFL teams are in terms of where he goes off the board. But I'm a huge Chris Bell fan.
Yeah, me too.
All right, wrap it up. Receivers with you, Rick. One more. Indiana obviously getting a lot of hype, rightfully so. After the season they got 2 receivers, Omar Cooper, Elijah Sarrett. Are they real, or are they getting a little propped up because of the kind of year that Indiana had?
Well, the championship players always get bumped up a little bit up the boards. I think teams try to identify winning pedigree players, but I think Omar Cooper is legit. 6 foot, 205 pounds, great route runner, works the boundary well, uses the sideline awareness, can go up vertically and get it. I think right now he's number 10 on my big board for the wide receiver ranking. Surratt, I think, is probably in the mid-round, day 3 range, good length. we'll see what he runs out in Indianapolis. I think that's going to be the big issue with Surratt. He just doesn't have long speed, where Cooper does have, 4.4 speed. So I think that's going to kind of put Cooper a little bit higher on the boards in terms of talent evaluators. And, Mendoza is not going to participate in any pre-draft testing. So at the combine and at pro day.
And at pro day? Wow.
Well, he'll throw, but he's not going to go through the, 40 and vertical and all that stuff. So, but he did say he'll throw at his pro day specifically because he wants to help out his teammates, such as, Cooper and Surratt.
Yeah. And that does that bother you as a draft guy? Like that guys don't do that?
You know what? It's a year by year situation. I think Mendoza, whether you like it or not, he's a lock for the number 1 pick. So I don't think he needs to do much. So I'm not going to make a big deal of it because I think he's a lock to be the number 1 pick. But I mean, I like competitors. I like guys who want to go out there and compete. And one of the best things about the combine, especially the throwing sessions, they split them up into 2 groups. And over the course of time, what I've noticed is typically the alpha male rises to the top and becomes a leader amongst leaders. These are all, team captains, star quarterbacks. But by the end of the week, you kind of see who the people gravitate towards too. And I think that's always fascinating and interesting. And, you won't get to see that with Fernando Mendoza being out there. So I think it does leave the door wide open for who that quarterback number 2 is next week. I think Indianapolis will go a long ways in determining that.
Who's your quarterback number 2?
Right now, I have Garrett Nussmeier. I think people don't realize how injured he was this past season. He re-aggravated a patellar in training camp, and I think he was kind of favoring one side, and Kelly down there just overthrew him in training camp. He actually had a torso injury before the first game of the season. So that's why you saw his ball velocity down this year. That's why you saw him not take as many deep shots down the field this year. But remember, a year ago, we were talking about him being the potential number 1 overall pick. He didn't live up to expectations this season, so he's not talked about as much as Ty Simpson. But to me, Ty Simpson has a lot of accuracy issues. He's a 1-year starter. That doesn't sit very well on my board. And Nussmeier is a multiple-year starter, son of an NFL coach, and is very accurate. And so to me, Nussmeier would be the guy that I would feel confident with rolling the dice on.
Do you think he can get pushed into the sorry, Zander? Do you think he can get pushed into the first round because of the lack of quarterbacks this year?
Yeah, it's a supply and demand league, right? And so, like, can you entirely rule out the Jets taking a quarterback in the first round? Because where are they going to go? And we'll see where the free agency lands them. But there's just not many available signal callers. So when you don't have one and you're desperate to get one, well, these guys go higher than they really should.
Greg, talk to me about offensive tackle, man. I think that's going to be the Eagles' first pick. You got Lane Johnson, who is, his best years are probably behind him at this point, could walk away at any point given his age. What do you think of the offensive tackles? Eagles are sitting at 23 overall in the first round. I think even trading up could be a possibility here. What tackles stick out to you, and who do you like for the Eagles and around that area?
Yeah, well, so to me, the most polished prospect is Francis Mauigoa from Miami. He's my number 1 tackle. I think after that, it could fluctuate depending on who you ask. I'm a big fan of Caden Proctor out of Alabama. I know a little bit refinement needs to be done on the technique, but when you talk about the size and athleticism, I think his best football is still ahead of him. And then you got the 2 Utah guys, Caleb Lomu, Spencer Fanu, both lengthy, agile guys that, could go flip-flop depending on how you like them. So I think after Mauigoa, the Eagles will have to just kind of monitor. And offensive tackle is another position that gets pushed up, right? Monroe Freeling out of Georgia is just a monster, still developing. But I think, he's the guy in the first round equation. Who I'd like to see them take is the kid from Arizona State, Max Ironhocker. This guy was just an animal down at the Senior Bowl. Very technically sound, great length, plays with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, multiple year starter. He's a true right tackle. Okay. And, this guy also had the highest rated Blesto grade during the season. So the scouts think very highly of Max Ironhocker. He backed it up at the Senior Bowl. And, sometimes the Eagles like these versatile guys that can play inside, outside, like Jennings Dunker out of Iowa. I don't think he's a first-round candidate. But, later on in the draft, he's a guy who started at tackle. Some guys think he might be a guard. He took some reps at guard at the Senior Bowl. And if they do choose to wait on a tackle, I'll tell you what, one of the most impressive ones I saw on the All-Star circuit is Emil Wagner out of Notre Dame. He was at the East-West Shrine Bowl. Really polished product. I think he's a plug-and-play starter. He's number 8 on my offensive tackle big board. But I think, in terms of what I saw, I have a borderline first-round grade on him. I don't think he'll go that high, but I think there's a tremendous value in Emil Wagner out of Notre Dame, 6'5", 300 pounds.
From the Eagles' perspective, I'm sure you're aware, Rick, they moved on from Jeff Stoutland, and they're going to go in more of a, Mike McDaniel type run direction, a lot of wide zone, a lot of stretch, versus, Alex Gibbs versus Jim McNally. That's how I describe it. Because Jeff Stoutland like Jim McNally, and, a lot of inside zone, a lot of pin and pull, a lot of power. A lot of combo, a lot of duo. As a scout, take me in the scouting, man. When you have that dramatic shift, or at least perceived to be, does that change the way you have to draft? You have to look for a guy who can reach block, and who would that be versus the power guy? How does that affect you guys in the scouting realm?
Yeah, I think what basically occurs is you have these war room meetings, and how we did it in Edmonton, at least, we would meet with the positional coaches. They would kind of explain to us their scheme, the type of players that they're looking for, size requirements, maybe arm length cutoffs, right? So like, hey, we need this player to fit this scheme, has to have these measurables. Go find me that guy. And so I think, with Stoutland, he was so good at the cross training, right? And they had guys moving up and down training camp. I would think that's something they want to continue, right? But, in terms of philosophy, you've got to kind of identify guys that fit the scheme. And then also, like, coaches have certain size requirements, right? And then you get the general manager who makes the final call. But a lot of times, I think the most successful front offices work in unison. And so you've got to kind of respect that coaching staff department, because the worst thing you can do is go give them a guy that doesn't fit their criteria. So now they don't want the guy, right? Now you're creating friction between the coaching staff and front office. So I think there's a little give and take there.
We're going to see what they end up doing there. It's going to be interesting to see the way this draft falls. Rick, who do you think are your like elite blue chip prospects this year? It doesn't feel like there's as much of an agreement across those. Who are your blue chips this year?
Well,
I'll start and end the list. Caleb Downs out of Ohio State. I got one blue chip.
I got two, Rick. I'm gonna get Caleb Downs and Jeremiah Love. Those are my two top players in the draft.
Yeah, I think Love would be the next guy I would anoint as a blue chip. I do like him much better than Ashton Jency, who went number 6 overall. So I think he's going to come in. He's going to be a gangbuster. I actually, think that he's a candidate to go number 3 to the Arizona Cardinals.
Wow.
Yeah, I mean, like, if you think about Arizona, their quarterback situation's up in flux. Whether Murray comes back, he's not durable, or it's Brissett, he's not reliable long term, or it's somebody else. They're going to need help alleviate some of the stress off of that position. And they were signing guys off the street last year. Connor went down. Benson went down. They had DeMarcado in there, as the feature
dropping the football before he goes over there.
Yeah, so, I mean, I think it's kind of where team need fits best available player. And I know, people kind of look at a running back number 3 with the stank eye, but this guy's going to be an immediate impact player. He's probably going to be a top 10 running back maybe as soon as his first season. So I'm a big fan of Jeremiah Love. He's probably my number 2 rated prospect in the entire NFL draft. But you're right, in terms of blue chip talent and franchise quarterbacks, this is one of the most depleted drafts I can remember.
Wow, that's interesting. Tight end. I want to talk tight end. I mean, yeah, the Eagles. We were just talking about Dallas Goedert in the show. Eagles have no tight ends, Rick. They don't got any of them under contract. They need some tight ends, man. I don't know if they're going to get Dallas Goedert back or not, but if they need to draft one, who do you like? Where are the tight ends, and who do you think could fall? Who could be some good value in rounds 2 or 3 or maybe even 4?
Yeah, let's take a look at the board. Kenyon Sadiq is the clear-cut number 1 guy. He's a little undersized.
Is he worth the first rounder?
I do believe that based on the speed and blocking, even though he's 6'2.5", 235, that bothers me a little bit. But you remember the kid Harold Fannin?
Yeah, he had a great year. I was just going to bring him up, man.
Yeah, so to me, Sadiq's a better prospect. I'd feel okay with it. This guy was 21.5 miles per hour on the catapult down in Mobile. He was outrunning wide receivers in practice. And so he's actually become a pretty good blocker too. I think it's an underrated aspect of his game. But, beyond that, I think you might see teams kind of wait. And I'm an Eli Stowers fan. I went down to Vanderbilt in training camp, was really impressed with this young man, 6'3.5", 235, really good head on his shoulders. He got a big NIL payout. Coaches said it didn't go to his head. He's a former quarterback, right? So his blocking is still a work in progress, but he's a pass catching threat. Max Clare out of Ohio State, he transferred over from Purdue, 6'4", 240. He's going to give you a little bit of both worlds, right? He's an adequate blocker, capable pass catcher, has the production, played on the big stage. I think he's right there in the mix. If you're looking for just purely a pass catcher, Michael Trigg out of Baylor, 6'3.5", 246, is making big plays across the field. And then, one guy I really like for the Eagles is Eli Raritan from Notre Dame. Excellent inline blocker. Proved he can be a competent pass catcher this past year for the Fighting Irish. So those would be a couple guys. Dallin Bentley out of Utah is getting a lot of love. He had a really impressive week down at the Shrine Bowl. I think he's moving up draft board. So I don't know, if there's a lot of starting caliber tight ends, but there's definitely a lot of depth. And, the Stowers, Claire, Sadiq, I think those guys project as starters. And then, Marlon Klein should also be mentioned. He's a guy to keep an eye out in Indy because at 6'5", 250 pounds, I think he's going to run 4.5, maybe lower. He's an incredible athletic freak. And so I think there's really good depth in this year's tight end class. It's just, depending on who they bring back, what their needs are, what they're looking for, there's going to be some good available options. Even into early day 3, I think you can find some value here.
What about that kid from North Carolina State? I asked about him. I don't know. Is it Jolly? I don't know how you pronounce it. Justin Jolie, only because of his size. And you think about how, again, the Eagles are shifting. You think about San Francisco. It's more of a true Y tight end inline. Same thing with Green Bay, although they're a little bit different. But you look at somebody like Kraft and his ability to do both. What do you think of him? I look at him and say the size. Well, maybe he can play inline. Is that
he did.
Yeah.
He bulked up 20 pounds this year, so he's up. He weighed in at 251, I think, at the Senior Bowl. When I scouted him at UConn, he was 230, and just an incredible player from a freshman. He made an instant impact at UConn. I said, "Oh, how the heck did UConn get this guy?" And I followed his career. I think he's going to be a very competent player. I mean, he's got a high floor. I don't know about his upside, but he can block, he can catch. I think he'll test well. I'm a Justin Jolly fan. In fact, I saw Terry Bradway at the UConn practice. I said, man, did you see this kid Jolly? I was calling him Jolly at the time. He's like, I already drafted Jolly in Green Bay. It didn't work out.
Well, you mentioned measurements before. That's to me, one of the most interesting players in the draft, because he shouldn't be as good as he is from a measurement perspective, but you watch him play and he's awesome. And that's Ruben Bain Jr. Doesn't have the length you want as an edge rusher, but the guy just plays. The guy can just play.
Yeah.
Where do you sort of rate Ruben Bain? How much do you think the lack of arm length is going to hurt him as a prospect as a whole?
I think this is going to be the biggest talking point of Indianapolis next week. For what it's worth, I have Bain going number 2 to the Jets. I'm going to trust my eyes on this. He's a pretty dominant player. And the reason why I didn't put him in the blue chip territory is because his arm length is going to come in under 31 inches from what I've been told. Now, there was a big fuss made about Will Campbell's arm length last year, and he was 33 1/8 inches. We're talking about a guy now 30 inches, and I know one NFL team ran the numbers. There's been one defensive end in the history of the NFL with shorter arm length. And that's a big deal for NFL scouts.
Yeah, that's not good.
I've heard, scouts say, hey, I got a day 3 grade on him. To me, he's a top 5 player in the draft. I think sometimes scouts overthink it. They put too much stock and emphasis in these measurements. And sometimes you just got to trust the good old eye test. And this guy's a monster, man. And to me, personally, I would try to convince him to kick inside as a 3 technique. I think he would have a very beneficial career if he did that. But he's been adamant about staying on the edge. Now, I did notice he kicked inside in the national championship game. So maybe he is open to it now. I think that'll be something that NFL teams want to talk to him about in Indianapolis. But, yeah, get ready for the noise. His arm length is going to create a stir next week for sure. But I'm a believer.
Yeah, it's interesting. Rick, edge rusher is big here in Philly, man. I mean, I don't know what they're going to do with Jaylen Phillips, but Jaylen Phillips, almost all their rotational pieces, are going to be gone. Brandon Graham, Josh Uche, Ojulari, not that they didn't play all that much last year, but that's their depth. If they don't get Jaylen Phillips back, who do you like in the edge rushing department when it comes to this draft?
Yeah, well, I got Bain and David Bailey from Texas Tech 1 and 2. After that, TJ Parker from Clemson, really good looking player, 6'3", 265. I think he reminded scouts down in Mobile why he was the number 1 rated defensive end coming into the season. And so he's got tremendous pedigree, can finish, right? Got a pass rush repertoire. On the opposite end of the spectrum is Keldrick Falk. We talk about traits, talk about potential, that dangerous P word, and you're just kind of waiting for it to all come together. Who's the kid out of Penn State that Baltimore drafted and traded? Owa.
Remember?
Yeah.
He may be back at Dope. Yeah.
Yeah. So you say, man, this guy's got all the tools in the world. Where the heck is the production? Well, that's the category that Keldrick Falk fits in at 6'5", 270. This guy's athletic as hell, can bend off the edge, just hasn't been able to finish. He leaves a lot of sacks on the table, but I can guarantee an NFL team is going to look at these measurables and say, hey, give me that guy. I can work with that. I can coach him up. I can teach that. Cassius Howell made himself a lot of money this past season at Texas A&M. A little bit smaller at 6'2", 249. So I think he's a fringe first-round guy. And then I think after that, you're looking at guys like Zion Young from Missouri, very well thought of in the scouting community. And Akeem Messidor is an interesting case study because he's 25 years old. I think he'll be a 26-year-old rookie, 6'2", 280. Again, to me, if I'm talking to Messidor, hey, let's eat your way inside at 280. He's another guy probably not going to have the prototypical height and length. I think he could be a better 3 technique, but he took reps strictly at defensive end. So, Messidor is a guy. And then Danny Dennis Sutton from Penn State, a guy who doesn't really get talked about enough, in my opinion. Again, high floor guy. and you just want to see more from him. I was really kind of looking for him to take the next step. He kind of plateaued a little bit, but still at 6'5.5", 265. Penn State's got a great reputation for turning out pass rushers, and I think he's a top 50 overall prospect.
All right, at Rick Saratella, make sure you follow Rick, one of the best in the business. Follow him on X. Go subscribe at allaccessfootball.com. The NFL Draft Bible there. Creator, Rick Saratella. Doing work for Boston Sports Journal, I see, with Greg Bedard.
Yes.
You're going to be covering the draft up there, so congratulations for you and those guys. And, last one for me, because I'm interested. How fired up are those Giants fans? I saw you're doing some work at Big Blue Breakdown with the Giants.
Yeah.
John Harbaugh, from my perspective, obviously in the NFC East here, it's been the Eagles and everybody else. And the Giants are making a lot of bad decisions for about a decade now. All of a sudden, you start to get the feel that they're going in the right direction. How hyped are people up there with John Harbaugh?
They're extremely hyped, and I do think John Harbaugh brings instant credibility. The team is going to be tougher. You see the organizational structure actually looks like a professional football organization for once, and he's come in and kind of laid the tone down. Now, shout out to my guy Paul Dottino. I went on his show yesterday, and he said, "Oh, well, the Giants. A big reason why Harbaugh wanted this job is because of how much talent the Giants have." And that kind of surprised me, because I don't see it that way. I think there's maybe 5 guys worth keeping around, and a lot of work to be done on the roster. Now, I think they'll be competitive with Harbaugh at the helm. And remember, they snuck in that first year under Dayball. Right. So it's possible they could be in playoff contention, but nobody really took them seriously, I don't think. To me, Jackson Dart is to be determined. I think that's where the excitement lies. I talk to Giants fans, and they're like, "Oh, we finally got a franchise quarterback." I said, "Do you? You sure about that?" Because
Nick loves him. I'll say that. Big Fangio loves him. He thinks he's a player. That carries some weight for me.
He flashes, but to me, he's more of a running back than a quarterback at this juncture.
Well, he's definitely got to protect himself better.
Well, that's a big thing.
That's a big
man.
part of it. Yeah.
Yeah, he was in that part of it. He was in that tent way too often.
Yeah.
And
Dayball's trying to get him out of the tent.
Yeah. Well, I think that's one of the things. Like, Harbaugh's a no-nonsense guy, where Dayball was a player's guy, and I thought Dayball really mismanaged Jackson Dart. So I think that's probably the biggest thing on John Harbaugh's to-do list. Now, if Jackson Dart comes around, who's he throwing it to? Because Neighbors, again, a little bit questionable to start the season. Wendell Robinson is a free agent. Theo Johnson at tight end didn't really develop like he should have. So I don't see weapons. The offensive line is a little bit better. I think their strong point is on the defensive side. That's where their bread and butter is. I mean, Dexter Lawrence and Brian Burns and Abdul Carter, Kayvon Thibodeau. They've got a strong defensive front to work with, but I see so much work that still needs to be done. I mean, there's upgrades needed at every single position on that roster. So I'm not as excited as the Giants fans, but you can't knock them for their enthusiasm. They've been so down and out.
Yeah.
For the past decade. So
crazy how bad New York football has been. You add in the Jets and
well, the Giants have been a model organization for so long, and then they got rid of Tom Coughlin. And
that was the crux. That was the turning point.
It's been a revolving door at the head coach position. And that's very uncharacteristic of that franchise.
Yeah, no good there. I'm with you on Dart though. If the play doesn't, if the off schedule stuff doesn't work, I don't know if I see him being able to pick apart a defense. We'll see. Rick, I got to ask him before I let you run. We appreciate you being here. Make sure you guys follow him at Rick Saratella. What'd you make of the Eagles season, man? It was a weird season, up and down, a lot of drama, a lot of controversy. Ultimately win 11 games, as John likes to say. They act like they won 5 season. They won 5 games. What'd you make of the season, man, from afar? Give us the Rick Saratella perspective.
I think they lost a lot of veteran leadership in recent seasons. You talk about guys like Fletcher Cox and James Bradbury, consummate professionals, Jason Kelsey. And I think the locker room kind of got sideways on them a little bit. And whereas, every locker room has issues. I think in years past, they've kind of kept it under the carpet a little bit better. But the last year or two, man, there's just been too much drama outside of the facility. And I hate to say it, but to me, I'd take a hard look at A.J. Brown because one bad apple spoils the bunch. And when you don't have a team-first guy in the locker room who's your star player and there's not a veteran presence there to keep him in check, I think there's a trickle-down effect. And whatever's going on between him and Jalen Hurts needs to get corrected, or I don't know if it's going to work long-term.
It's a fair point by you, no doubt about it. Rick, good stuff, man. We appreciate you joining in today. It's always good talking to you at draft season. The number one draft guy is Rick Saratella. Rick, we appreciate you, brother. We'll talk to you again soon.
Good luck in Indy.
Yeah, good luck in Indy. All right, brother?
All right, we'll see you out there. Thanks, guys.
All right, thanks man.
Bud.
There's Rick Saratella joining us right here on Birds 365. Good show today. Good segment there with Rick Saratella. Johnny Mack, I'm getting ready for the NFL draft, brother. It's always good to get ready for the NFL draft. It's an exciting thing for the NFL. You bring in a whole lot of new young prospects. Good young players. Some of them pan out, some of them don't. It's an interesting process.
I got to tell you, man, I've never heard two blue chip prospects at the top of the draft, and Rick really was 1.5.
Yeah,
basically Caleb Downs and sort of Jeremiah Love. I'm with two. I'm with Caleb Downs and Jeremiah Love. I put Jeremiah Love above Caleb Downs, but they're both awesome. But running back's never going to get taken number one.
The problem with running back too is if he goes to the wrong team, he's not going to live up.
He mentioned Arizona. I don't like that fit for Love. I want him to go to Kansas City because I think not want him, but I'd like to see him there because I think, with a good team, I think he's going to be an immediate difference maker. But, running backs can't do much on bad teams, no matter how good they are. You saw it for years with Saquon Barkley, with the Giants. So I'm with you. But just from the pure talent standpoint, top of this draft is not great. And the quarterbacks are not good. And anytime the quarterbacks are not good, everybody's talking about quarterbacks, and everybody's talking about the Eagles potentially taking a quarterback on day 2. But it's not Nussmeier, and he's going to go on day 1. I'm getting more and more convinced of that every day, and Rick just convinced me more. Who are you going to take? I don't want any of those guys. I don't want Carson Beck. I don't even want Ty Simpson. But Ty Simpson's going to go too high. But even if he fell, I wouldn't want him. Then you start talking about Cade Klubnik and Drew Aller, who, Drew Aller's the one guy. If I'm going to take one, I can't believe I'm saying this. It's got to be Drew Aller.
I agree with you. I mean, he's at least got the traits. You look at the potential of him.
Yeah, that's not a good year from a quarterback perspective, to say the least. And maybe one of the day 3 guys. Yeah, but we went through that with Kyle McCord, who I actually liked as a day 3 guy, but it didn't pan out. He's in Green Bay now. Maybe it'll pan out for him there. Who knows? But
where's your boy going? Dylan Pavia or whatever his name is.
He's not going till day 3. But he's just. He's a great college player. It's like Tim Tebow.
Yeah.
But different style. He's just so short. He doesn't project to the NFL level. It's just, he's just not going to be able to play quarterback at the NFL level. But he was a great college player. Great college player. To turn that school into relevancy, and they're beating big-time programs in the SEC a lot. I don't think people know how down Vandy was. And he completely turned that thing around. I loved him as a college player, but it ends there. Hopefully he can carve out a role, as a second or third string quarterback and be the kind of guy that can come in and win a game if you need to win a game for, but there you have it. Yeah.
Rick Saratella just shot me a text. He says Cole Payton is the North Dakota State quarterback, who could be a dark horse number 2 quarterback in the draft this year.
All right, there we go. I don't know much about it. I'll have to do some research on, what is it, Cole Payton?
Cole Payton at North Dakota State.
All right, yeah. Well, the Eagles have gone down that route. Now
the North Dakota State quarterback route.
Carson worked, so
he did work.
Fair. Yeah,
you kidding me? He did work.
But obviously he was the second pick in the draft. You'd be talking about a day 2 guy. But yeah, that's all right. I like to have some interest. Get somebody interesting in there. Maybe I'll throw Cole Payton. Hat tip to Rick Saratella. Maybe I'll throw him into a mock draft for the Eagles,
that'd be good. We'll see. We'll see what they end up doing, John. I think it's interesting, looking at the Eagles roster and what they need. I mean, edge, tackle. I didn't think this a little bit ago, John. I'm like, they just drafted Cooper and Quinion. They're not going to draft a corner. They need a corner. I mean, you think they go free agency? Do they draft another corner high enough to be their starter? Do they go another Adoree Jackson?
I don't.
I mean,
I don't think it's nearly the need that people make it out to be. I think.
Well, no, but I mean, how did they address it this year? What's your perspective on?
Well, I'm sure they'll want to get somebody younger, but at worst case scenario, if you have to bring Adoree back on a 1-year deal, another 1-year deal, that wouldn't be the worst thing in the world. As long as you have Quinion and Cooper, you're fine. You do want to add some depth, obviously. And they tried to last year with Mac McWilliams, and maybe he starts to develop. I know they like Brandon Johnson a lot, but he's more of a slot safety guy. And they had Michael Carter, but I don't think that will, I guess they'll have to redo something with his contract. So you want to get better, but I think you could go and do it and replicate what you did last year and be fine. I certainly am not going to take a first-round pick on a corner to be the second corner. I've seen a lot of people say that. I'm like, come on. What are we doing?
Well, I mean, I think the theory, you lock down the position for a long time and they're spaced out enough. I mean, Cooper's going to get paid probably after this season coming up. Then it'll be Quinion because Quinion has the 5th-year option. Maybe they both get paid at the same time. And then, you have a guy who's a couple years behind him. I mean, you can space it out. I don't know. I agree. I didn't think it was likely, but they do need it. They do need a guy.
It is disappointing that Keeley didn't develop, because then you'd have that situation.
Right.
Or even Jacorian Bennett, who's still here, and I think people forget. And maybe he gets back into the equation with a full training camp. Remember, he got traded for late. Full off season with the team, full training camp. So they do have some young bodies. But yeah, they have too many other needs to get hyper focused on cornerback when they already have 2 of them. And I remember Howie saying that, and I said, yeah, you know what? He's 100% right. Like, if people kept calling it a weakness, and Howie said, if you have Quinion Mitchell and Cooper DeJean, cornerback is not a weakness. I mean, that's just, if you can get a third one, it's a tremendous luxury. But again, comparatively speaking, and there's so many other needs. And one thing I should have asked Rick and didn't get to is the interior of the offensive line, because, man, there's so much uncertainty there now.
I know. I don't know how high they're going to draft an interior player. I mean, I think I like what you said earlier, like Caden Proctor and start him inside, but without Jeff Stoutland, I don't know how good that thought process works either.
Yeah, that's another one I should have asked. That guy who can potentially start inside and then kick out to replace Lane Johnson whenever Lane does walk away. Who's the best fit for that? And the best fit in the new system, not the old system, which could be different, because I think that's where Caden Proctor fit under Stoutland, but not necessarily under Chris Cooper and Sean Mannion.
John, I think the corner thing, though, real quick, I mean, doesn't it kind of like sound like, like the backup quarterback? And obviously they're very different, but I mean, when they drafted Jalen Hurts, it was like crazy to think about drafting it using a 2nd-round pick on a backup quarterback. But as BLG pointed out in our interview with him yesterday, he's like, these backup quarterbacks are like pretty expensive. They're like $6, $7, $8 million, and they're not that good. That's kind of how I feel about the second corner spot. Now, I don't think they're going to use their first round pick on a corner, but maybe a second or third rounder to kind of get the guy at that position. It's cheaper and you have more upside there.
Well, I don't rule anything out in the second and third round, but I do think they have much bigger needs. So I think it'll be shifted in different directions. There's a lot of uncertainty. Cornerback's one of them, but I do think you have enough young bodies that say, well, maybe out of Jacorian Bennett, Mac McWilliams, and Keely Ringo, which I know people are going to pull the plug, and I think Vic has pulled the plug, so it's probably true. So it's really more two guys. Maybe one of them develops. It's not unheard of to develop players. And so it's not like the cupboard is bare with young players. And I just think they have bigger needs. So that complicates things. And how he kind of let he doesn't consider it a weakness. So I don't know if they're going to, they got to rebuild the tight end room. They got to get interior offensive lineman. They got to get a potential successor to Lane Johnson. They got to get a wide receiver, even if AJ's back. They got to get a third wide receiver. They got a lot of stuff they got to get to. And some of it can be in free agency as well. So you start looking at the corners. Let's pop up the corners. I mean, hey, maybe Slay comes out of retirement. How bring Slay back and finally get that reunion? I'm joking, by the way. It's not going to happen. So, and I'm looking at the younger guys: Amik Robertson, Eric Stokes. You like Eric Stokes? Ador Kohu, Greg Newsome. People will recognize that name, but he's had Malafano for Miami. Benjamin St. Juste. I always liked him. AJ used to murder him. I think AJ kills Washington corners.
Yeah, he does.
Roger McCreary. Not a lot. Alante Taylor's a name that's been mentioned in the past with the Eagles. He's only 28. Maybe you go about it that way. Get a 2-year deal thing. I would think more in the range of Isaiah Rodgers than a first-round pick. Can you find the next Isaiah Rodgers? $7-8 million corner.
Yeah, sounds about right to me.
I don't know if that player's out there, but that's why you have the personnel staff. They got to find that type of player.
Yeah. How many get, man? I know you just read off some of them, but we're going to see. That's why I think maybe a second or third rounder, if the board doesn't fall their way and there's a corner they like there, I wouldn't rule it out. I think it's definitely a possibility. John, when it comes to safety, also in the secondary, you think they draft the safety this year, or you think the contract's getting done with Reed? I saw somebody put up a projection on Reed. Let me see if I can find it real quick for you. I actually didn't like it at all. I didn't dislike it at all. 3-year, $20 million for Reed. Now that might be too low, but
yeah, I would definitely do that.
Yeah, that's too low. $6.5 million a year. Just under $6.5 million.
These are everything seems low to me.
I know, me too. I mean, why does everything seem so low? People are playing it safe.
270, and again, the cap's going from 279 to 305-ish. So the cap's going up $25 million, and everybody's going down. I don't. I've heard other people say, I heard of Jaylen Phillips today, 5 years, $100 million. So, I mean, some people are projecting normal numbers. I don't know why some of the numbers are so deflated, other than maybe they're not up to date with the new salary cap. Maybe I don't know, because I don't pay that much attention to it. But yeah, if I can get Reed Blankenship for and it'll essentially be a 2-year deal for $12 million. Yeah, I do that. But if I'm Reed Blankenship, I'm going to test the market. I mean, I got to believe he gets more than that. Even coming off a down season, because his 2 previous seasons to that were really good seasons. And he's still only 27. But I mean, I was in more of the 8 to 10 million range for Reed. But we'll see. And 10 would be difficult, but 8 I would do.
Do you think the Eagles made Reed wait, or do you think he bet on himself?
I think he bet on himself.
Looks like he might have lost.
I agree. Well, relative.
I mean, I just remember us having this conversation last offseason, and the number was closer to 15 million on the projection.
Well, yeah, because that's what Cam Bonham got paid.
Yeah, no, I don't think we were wrong. I think we were right. But the deal obviously didn't come to fruition. I thought it was going to be anywhere from 12 to 13, anywhere in that range. Now we're talking about 3 years.
Yeah, I mean, for Reed, who came in as an undrafted guy, I mean, this will be his first big money contract. So even $8 million will be a big change in, his life. But
man, they're making him wait for it, aren't they, John?
Well, I mean, that's the nature of being an undrafted guy. In a lot of ways, they redid a deal because of how he was playing early. So they bought out his exclusive rights free agent year by giving him more money. So they've actually done some positive things for Reed to say, all right, you've outperformed, and we're gonna buy that out and give you a little bit more money. But yeah, I mean, that's the nature of, because everybody will bring it up. His entire, well, he was undrafted. He was undrafted. And they say, well, he played well in 2023, 2024. Well, he was undrafted. See? And he didn't play as well this year. And they say, see, he was undrafted. It's the life of an undrafted free agent. But I'll tell you what. Boy, this team at safety without Reed Blankenship, who's playing safety?
I don't know.
You got Drew Makuba, who doesn't know where to line up, and that's Vic. That ain't me. Now he's a young player. He'll learn. You got Sidney Brown, who obviously Vic doesn't like. Michael Carter, you can move back to safety, but again, with his contract, is that going to be a foundational part of it? You could always say you can move Cooper to safety, but then you're taking him away from slot. And then you got futures guys, Brandon Johnson and Andre Sam. If you don't bring Reed Blankenship back, all of a sudden you got a big, big, big hole at safety. Just not only is he one of the starting safeties, he's the traffic cop on the back end. He gets everybody lined up correctly. And part of the reason that, at least from the Eagles standpoint, that he had a down year in coverage, and it really only had a down year in coverage. All his other, his run support and the other stuff was optimal. It was really just coverage. And a lot of that was trying to play it safe because Mick wasn't necessarily comfortable with Drew as a rookie being in the right spot all the times.
Yeah, safety's going to be interesting. You're right. I mean, if you look at, I know not everybody loves Reed, but I mean, if you don't think you're bringing Reed back, then the safety position right now is pretty bleak. Maybe they signed someone in free agency there. I don't know. Maybe that's one of the free agency spots.
Yeah, it could be. Well, definitely. I mean, almost has to be if you don't bring Reed back. Almost has to be.
Agreed. Let's read some super chats. See what the people are saying this morning. What's up, Pin? Here's Pin. Browns may cut Denzel Ward. Could he be our cornerback too? Well, he's going to be expensive, but he's a damn good player.
Yeah. Well, let me look.
What's his value? Or what does it say his value is?
It strikes me as it would be too expensive. He's still only 28.
He's on a 5-year, $100 million contract.
Yeah, I mean, no, absolutely not. I mean, you can't. I mean, it's got nothing to do with the player. And I get it. Everybody wants Tyreek Hill. Everybody wants Mike Evans. Everybody wants Denzel Ward. It's not possible, guys. It's not fucking possible. You can't have a star at every position. You don't fly. What did you say? 5 years, what? 100 million?
Yeah.
You don't have $25 million cornerbacks as cornerback 2 in this league.
Yeah, but he signed that. I mean, you know how contracts work, John. He signed that a long
Even
time.
so,
It 44 million total guarantee. I don't know how much guaranteed money he's got left.
I'll tell you what. I'll tell you what. If you Denzel Ward, if you have Denzel Ward, who was the 4th pick in the draft, by the way. If you have Denzel Ward and then Quinyon Mitchell, you draft Quinyon Mitchell, and Quinyon Mitchell develops into a better corner, and you say, well, yeah, then you might have a $25 million corner who's a cornerback too. It doesn't work the other way, where you bring somebody in to be the cornerback too at that level of their career and stature in their career. Does that make sense, what I'm trying to say? Anybody?
Yeah, it does make sense. No, it does make sense. I mean, we'll see what they end up doing there, though, at a corner spot there. Johnny Mac, going to be interesting, man, with all this potential change. You know, you got some guys who you think would come back, but also if they don't, then the team could look a whole lot different. Aren't we gambling, John, with changing out this defense so much, though, every single year? I mean, now you could have another new edge rusher, could have another new corner, another new safety. Nakobe Dean's going. Boy, if Vic Fangio hangs up the cleats next year, or the hypothetical cleats, I don't think it's going to look very good in Philly after that.
Well, you got a lot of young ascending players on defense, talented players. So as long as Jalen Carter's healthy and stays on the right path, as long as Jordan Davis is healthy and you get that extension done. If you get Jaylen Phillips done, he's still young. You still have Nolan Smith and Jalen. I mean, you have Quinyon Mitchell, Cooper DeJean, Zach Bond, Jihad Campbell. That's a freaking boatload of talent, man. Nobody loves Vic Fangio more than me. But people are downplaying the talent on the defense of this team. They overstate.
Also, quite a bit that's leaving, though, John.
They overstate. Which one of those guys is leaving?
I'm saying that have left the defense.
Well, the core. Then that would have been, but it was unrealistic. Again, to the point of bringing in. You can't have Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, and Milton Williams. You got to make a decision. Yeah. So which one of the three are you going to let go? You can't have all three. You can't pay all three at the level. And again, you could have paid Milton Williams $26 million or whatever the hell he got last year and said, well, Jalen Carter's Jordan, they're still on their rookie deals. You could have done it but then what do you do when he's 26 and they're up for their contract? So that's where you have to be disciplined and looking ahead. And that's what Howie was trying to explain. Look, this is a maintenance offseason. We're doing things to set up things in the future. And again, same thing with Josh Sweat. How do you can't pay him $18 million. You can't. You can't have everything. This isn't the Dodgers in baseball. There's a salary cap.
Effing Dodgers. Friggin' Dodgers. All right, let's keep going.
And by the way, they're going to shut down baseball because of that. By all everybody's predicting, they're gonna have another strike. And
yeah, what's going on with that? I haven't read anything about it.
It'll be after this season, but because the Dodgers have made it so not fun. It's not a system where people can compete. and you have it where it is. So football has a salary cap, and that means you can't pay 3 defensive tackles $25 million. And you can't pay corners, 3 corners, $20 million, whatever Cooper and Quinion are. It doesn't, you have to fill in. That's why the offense was getting paid and the defense wasn't. Now the defense is starting to get paid and the offense is going to start to recede.
Well, in theory, it's starting to get paid. We haven't really seen anybody get paid yet other than Zach Bond.
Well, they're going. I mean, it might be different players. I mean, obviously they're going to.
No, I know. I'm just saying they haven't paid any of them yet. I mean, I thought the Carter extension might come. I thought the Davis extension will come.
Well, things happen. Like I would personally.
Well, what's the timeline? Like, what's the timeline? If you're extending Jalen Carter this summer, what's the timeline?
Well, I wouldn't extend them. BLG and I were.
But if they were, I mean, if they do.
Well, the date doesn't matter. Jody used to get in me with dates. Who cares? I mean, that has to do with, negotiations, and it doesn't, like, you don't have to have it done by March or June 16th, or, it could be the week. They generally in Howie's history likes to make a big splash right before the start of the regular season if he's going to extend somebody. Have a feel-good moment as the season starts. That's why I thought Reed, because he's had that history. But the date doesn't matter. And a lot of things can factor into that, whether it's, again, haggling back and forth. The Carter contract extension is a lot more difficult than I presumed it would be because of the shoulder issue. Shoulders, both of them. It's a lot more complicated. I thought it was fairly straightforward. Look, don't get in trouble and you're going to be the highest paid defensive player in football. At one point, that's where I thought it was going to be. It's not going to be there now. So it becomes more difficult. And you have Drew Rosenhaus, who's a killer, and is going to be pushing to get his client and himself, obviously, every single penny they can. So that part of it doesn't matter. And then it comes down to, like, to use Milton as an example, because now it's out there, the Eagles were trying to re-sign him, but they were trying to re-sign him to a cost-effective, team-friendly deal. And Milton's like, boy, if I get a chance to play, I'm going to play well and I'm going to make a lot of money. And he bet on himself and he won. It's a two-way street as well, which I think a lot of people don't realize. You don't just snap your finger and get these things done. So the timing is not the biggest issue. Obviously, when you have unrestricted, then it becomes an issue. Jaylen Phillips, there's a timeline. They're going to try to get something done before March 11th. Will Jaylen Phillips even, maybe he's a Spot Rack subscriber and he's like, oh boy, they're going to give me $18 million and I'm only supposed to make $17 million, and maybe he takes it. My guess is he's going to test the market. That's my guess.
How about this name, John, on the edge market? I don't know how to pronounce the first name. Is it Kayvon Chason? Kayvon Chason?
New England?
Yeah, the New England player.
He's talented. He's talented, but
26 years old, open market player. First round pick in 2020, I believe. Started with Jacksonville, his career. He had 8 sacks last year. I know you're not a big sack guy, but played 58% of the snaps.
Yeah, I think he's nowhere close to Jaylen Phillips. If that's
but I think he'll be cheaper than Jaylen Phillips.
Oh yeah, he'll be much.
A lot cheaper. I mean, if he's not $9-10 million
no,
a year, that's a worthy flyer.
I think. No, I think the Eagles are big game hunting. I think they learned from what they went through last year for half a season. They're not going to do that again. If they don't get Jaylen Phillips, they're gonna try to make a splash elsewhere. That's not a big enough splash.
And you think that splash would be Crosby?
Potentially. I mean, number one is always Miles. Where's Miles? Potentially. I mean,
how much is it going to cost to trade for Miles Garrett at this point? Still multiple ones? I mean, what?
Yeah. I mean, you saw what they were willing to give up for Micah Parsons. I know some people are going to put on the baby ears and refuse to believe it, but
but how much is the age? And Micah was 25, 26?
Yeah, a little bit.
He's
a little bit.
He's not even in the prime of his career yet, Micah. And he's already this good.
Yeah, I mean, Miles is a little bit older, but they love him so much. They're not the only ones. And he keeps himself in such good shape. But and by the way, I don't put Max Crosby anywhere near those two. So I don't, there.
I mean, yesterday you said you thought Phillips is better than Crosby, which I thought was a
all around,
comment,
all around player. It's better. Not as a pass rusher. It's not better. All around, he can set the edge. He's versatile. He can move inside. He can do a lot of good things. But as for what people want, just pure pass rush, no, Max is better. But as an all-around player, yeah, Jaylen Phillips is better, in my opinion.
All right, John, this is my next question here. Last offseason was a maintenance offseason. Is this the same thing, or are they going to be spenders?
No, it's going to be in between. They're not going to be crazy. Like they don't have.
Does the organization believe that 26 is a Super Bowl year?
Well, we're going to see, because when they act like it, they act with urgency. Last year, I mean, I mentioned early in the process, I go, even if they're not doing it on purpose, there is a human nature aspect of winning the Super Bowl that they breathed a little bit and they said, all right, we got it done. They claim that's not the case, but they did. Now they have the urgency back. What they don't have back is a ton of cap space, and they're not getting it, certainly if they trade A.J. Brown. So again, and I know it frustrates people, 1 and 1A, sign Jaylen Phillips and convince A.J. to come back, or vice versa. Convince A.J. to come back and sign Jaylen. 1 and 1A. That's the linchpins of the offseason. And if they go in a positive direction and they sign Jaylen Phillips and convince A.J. to run it back, probably people are going to be a little upset about how the offseason looks, ironically, because again, those are not perceived as additions. Those are perceived of guys coming back. Human nature again. If they lose those guys, then it'll become a much more volatile offseason, which I think will excite people because there will be some out-of-the-box things done. So, as I often say, be careful what you wish for, because the goal is to get Jaylen Phillips back and get A.J. back in the fold. And
let's see if they do it. You feeling one way or the other about the A.J. Brown thing? You think they keep him?
Yeah, I think
you've been 52-48. I got to keep the gauge.
I think I'm back. I'm back in the positive, 52-48. I'm back in the positive. Although
it's still only 52. It's not hasn't moved.
Yeah, because everybody in this league I talk to outside of Philadelphia thinks he's moving. And the only people who think he isn't moving are inside of Philadelphia.
Who's got the inside track on what Howie wants to do?
Nobody, because Howie doesn't talk to anybody. Doesn't talk to anybody.
What do you think of the element that A.J. Brown has maybe spoiled the soup at this point? Like Rick talked about, one bad apple. And I agree with that logic. I don't know that A.J. is the bad apple that people make him out to be, but there's enough evidence to support the claim.
I don't think it's I think AJ, I don't think it's overt. Like, I think there's the I think people, again, outside of Philadelphia think it's overt. Like, he's one of the most popular players on that team. It's not a typical troublemaker that people don't like. I mentioned that yesterday, as a matter of fact. I think some of the Eeyore behavior, as I call it, that's hurts the team. And I think maybe it's ironic because he's such a disciplined person. Maybe he's got to be more disciplined, keeping those frustrations out of the public eye. I would say not even maybe. For the Eagles' sake, for my sake, by all means, keep them in the public eye. But for the Eagles' sake, yeah, I think he's got to keep those frustrations behind closed doors when he does have them. But he's so well liked. I get a kick out of people who think he's like nobody likes him.
I don't think people think that nobody likes him. I just think people think that he's
well, like spoiled, like
the team,
from when somebody says, like Rick said, and I'm not blaming Rick. I mean, he's not there every day. It's the perception I think of AJ Brown to outside people is that he's a bad apple. And to me, bad apple, when I hear that, I start thinking about Gio, bad apple.
Yeah, but he could be. Yeah, but where I disagree here is not. It doesn't have to be that he's a bad apple. He's obviously not a bad dude, and people obviously like him. But what has happened, and where Rick is right, is there used to be Jason Kelsey, Fletcher Cox, different people that kind of steadied the leadership waters. Now AJ Brown's one of the sole guys as a leader. So you could look at his behavior without other leaders in the building and say, boy, that influence is probably not great. Probably not what you want Cooper DeJean, hanging around all the time. Probably not what you want Devontae Smith hearing every single day. He's one of the guys. He's one of the main leaders on the team. And he's constantly got something to say. He's constantly bitching. He's got whatever. I think that's a fair thing to
well, I think that's the frustration more of the I think for 99% of people, they understand what he said was not only correct, it was 100% correct.
Yeah, but being correct is not the right gauge for a leader.
Well, is what it depends on everybody's version of leadership and what, again, he's voted a team captain. He's not made a team captain because he's a star. So his own teammates are voting him a captain. So who am I to usurp their votes and say,
no, I think that even furthers the point. I mean, they look at him as a leader, and then his leadership is that, there's always some sort of bitching associated with him. There's always some sort of media talking about him because he's reading books or doing this or tweeting this. I mean, look, I love AJ Brown, but it's hard to look past all that and just act like it doesn't. It's not any sort of a big deal.
Well, I think that's why Jeffrey Lurie talked to him. But and that's where I bring up the Eeyore stuff, which is my playful way of saying it, like we all know that the passing offense stunk. There's better ways to handle it.
And if you didn't know, AJ will remind you every week.
Yeah, there are better ways to handle it. That's fair. All of that is fair. And that's why he got talked to. That's why he had to go to the principal's office.
Yeah.
But the leadership, I mean, who could talk about leadership? I mean, we talk about with Jalen Hurts all the time. People have different personalities. Like, for all the talk about, Fletcher Cox was at times, a very volatile guy. It's like, I don't know. People.
I agree. There's no clear cut way to do it, but I do just look at it. I try and zoom out because I've been very AJ slanted, I would say. I mean, I like AJ Brown a lot. I even like the little bit of the sporadic nature to him. I'm the same way personally, so I can appreciate it or understand it. But I mean, John, think about it. You just said he had the owner had to talk to him. He kind of got sent to the principal's office, and then what did it look like after that, John? It looked like he withdrew a little bit. He had more drops. There was multiple times throughout the last, 5-6 games that people were questioning the effort. I understand you didn't like that, but there was on tape where the ball was coming his way and he didn't look like he was giving it everything, didn't look like he made every effort to go and get the football after. I mean, if you're a leader or if you're a young player and that's a leader on the team and you watch him bitch and moan and then you watch the owner talk to him and then you watch him withdraw, you know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not trying to make AJ to be a bad person, but it does make sense why, that's not
that's
a good
why
look.
people think he's getting traded, but I don't think it's. And he may get traded. That's why people outside the city think he's getting traded.
Yeah.
And I'm talking about people in the league. I'm not talking about media people. I'm not talking about fans. I'm talking about people in the league think he's getting traded. That's why they think it, because that's the normal course of action. It's normal. And I'm saying this is not a normal situation. This is not a normal wide receiver diva situation. This is not a casebook, insert name, Stephon Diggs isn't happy, he's gone. It ain't that. It's, kind of an eclectic guy who gets frustrated where he's not able to contribute. And probably, there's no doubt he could handle it better. From a team perspective, I never discourage honesty ever, but from a team perspective, they certainly think there's a better way to handle it.
Yeah.
As they always would, but it's not normal. Like everybody crap. This is a diva. This is a diva. This is a diva. That's what they do. And I'm telling you, it's not like that. Now people can believe it or not believe it. That's fine.
I agree with you. It's not like that, but I do. It's fair to wonder how the young, impressionable players think about that. That's the guy that makes all the money. He's got the multiple max contracts. That's the dream. I mean, that's what the young.
You brought up.
Dream.
You brought up Cooper. Him and Cooper are thick as thieves, man, and it certainly hasn't affected Cooper DeJean's.
It hasn't yet.
To develop into one of the best slot corners in recent history. And those two love each other, doing super kicks on the field, probably talking about Nikki Bella, but I digress. Yeah. I mean, those, I don't agree with the leadership aspect of it because, some of the guys who people thought were great leaders were not great leaders. And some of the people they think aren't great leaders are great leaders.
Right.
Because
it is a tough thing to gauge. I do agree with that.
Everybody's personality is different. Like Saquon is one of the most professional players I've ever met. I mean, he is as polished as you can be. I mean, he is just from 7 a.m. to 7. He is just a pro's pro, man.
Yep.
And is that better than being, laying your real emotions like out there than being as polished? I don't know. Maybe it is. Maybe it isn't.
I think laying your emotions out there is a good thing. I think the withdrawal that appeared to come after it is the bad thing.
Well, the withdrawal had to do with, Jeffrey basically saying, all right, stay off social media and keep this stuff in house. And he kind of knew that, in a lot of ways, it's a self-realizing moment from the standpoint of I'm probably not going to be able to do that, so I'm just not going to do anything. But he did it.
But
he didn't do it.
Did it lead to him playing worse at the end of the year? Yes or no?
I don't know. The effort stuff again. Why I don't like. If you watch,
forget the effort. You don't have to use the word effort. Look at the production. Look at the value. Look at what he did. He dropped more passes than I've ever seen him drop.
Well, I
Forget
think the frustration played into it. Like for everybody who's watched the Philadelphia Eagles, they should know if they watch the games, they should know AJ's kind of famous for his late hands. And he's doing that purposefully because NFL corners are good.
Yeah, right.
So the minute you raise your hands, that's a signal to the corner. Randy Moss was fucking unbelievable at this. That's a signal to the corner that the ball is coming and they're going to try to rip. Corners have gotten so much better at that over the years. So even if you catch the ball, they're going to try to rip the whole way down. And you know what the NFL rules and the bullshit catches rules, and you got to go all the way down. So all these big time receivers are very big with late hands. They want to show their hands as late as humanly possible so the corner doesn't know. And when it works, and it worked a lot, everybody's like, AJ's great. AJ's on. And when it doesn't work, he's not showing effort. He's doing the same fucking thing. Now, to the point of, so that's why I don't like the effort discussion. To the point of not being as successful, that part of it's true. I think his frustration, certainly spilled over into his game. And he didn't play as effectively. I think that's 100% true. And that's why you're having the issues you're having in the fact that, people outside in the league outside of Philadelphia think he's gone because he doesn't want to be here. And maybe they're right. I can't say they're wrong. And the Eagles have to convince him that it's not going to be as frustrating. Can you do it? I don't know how you do that, which is part of the reasons I went to 52-48 negative at one point. Now I'm back to 52-48 positive because I think the Eagles are just bending over backwards because it's so hard to trade him and get value in return. But yeah, that's where we are, and that's, it'd be great if he was more like Devontae and just, had his head down and from a team.
Well, I think your point about the effort is fine. I mean, that makes sense what you're saying there with the effort. I don't know, but I will say this, I haven't seen AJ drop balls like I did at the end of the year. I think back to that.
I think that's the frustration. I said there's no doubt he didn't play as well, and I think that's the frustration.
I mean, if you read the Lance Zierlein, John, pre-draft report on AJ Brown, that guy Lance Zierlein, I don't know if he's got a crystal ball or what. Sometimes he is so on point. You read his pre-draft on AJ, one of the key lines in the weaknesses was drops appear when his focus declines.
Well, yeah, frustration, focus. Yeah, focus has nothing to do with effort. Frustration, he said focus, I said frustration. Same thing. Yeah, there's no doubt that bled into his game.
Yeah, well, how does that impact as a leader?
It was so he was so frustrated. Well, I don't think I think some of the behind the scenes stuff that, when he spent less time talking to us, he spent more time, which I don't like, but he spent more time being with his teammates and then, spending time with them. So, there's two ways you can look at that, but you'll know it because if he is back and he doesn't get voted a captain, because the Eagles don't.
Oh, he'll get voted a captain. The players still like him.
The Eagles don't name captains because of performance or thing, and a lot of being a captain is. I mean, look, a lot of quarterbacks shouldn't be captains, but they are captains, and this is not a Jalen Hurts. So the baby years you got to put on. I'm talking around the NFL. A lot of quarterbacks are generally captains because by nature the position has to be a leadership. Not a lot of them should be, but they are. And a lot of them are decreed to be captains. I'm not going to go down 32 teams. Some teams handle it. One year, during the COVID year, Doug Peterson just named captains because nobody was around each other. So, I mean, different situations in different cities. But here in Nick Sirianni's era, it's always been player driven. And I assume it will continue to be. And if he's here and he doesn't get it, maybe it did have an impact. But I don't think leadership is that. First of all, I think it's impossible to gauge, even for somebody like me who's there every day. I still think it's impossible to gauge. And for people who aren't there, it's even more impossible, if that's even a thing. But from being around AJ a lot and seeing his import to a lot of players, I don't think it's the case with him. I just don't.
That's fair. Let's see what ends up happening with AJ Brown. Let's go to our super chat today. Pump, actually, man, we got a lot of them from Brian Pumper, which means we're gonna have some interesting ones. Here's the first one. He says, "Development, you say, J-Mac. Coop and Q were hot picks. B. Pumper argues our secondary development has been pedestrian at best. The book is not closed on Keeley."
Well, I think the book is closed from Vic's standpoint.
Yeah, Vic is not playing Ringo. Sorry, Pump.
Now, maybe it reboots. Maybe they'll say, hey, you got to give him another chance, and maybe they'll give him another chance. But that's why I'm focused on the other younger guys. I do think Jacorian Bennett, hey, if he's going to be here, you might as well give him a chance. And he's young enough, and he got here late. But yeah, the assumption that first round pick, obviously with a first round pick, and Cooper was a second round pick, that would have been a first rounder if it didn't have some injury concerns coming out of Iowa, but doesn't guarantee success. Look at Terrion Arnold, same year. Who's better? Look at who's that other kid from Ohio State? It was like the third pick in the draft. It was just brutal his entire career. Oh, boy. Why can't – Jeff Okudah. Remember Jeff Okudah? Looking it up. He's only 27, by the way. 2020 third overall pick by the Detroit Lions. Anybody remember Jeff Okudah? Third overall pick. Being the 22nd pick in the draft doesn't guarantee anything. So to act like the Eagles haven't developed Quinyon Mitchell and Cooper DeJean is insane.
Here is Pump again. He says, okay, J-Mac, so what benefits does Reed bring? B. Pump already debunked your traffic cop claim. No way we just signed Buddy because he's quote-unquote unliked.
B. Pump, I love you for being such a loyal follower to the show, but I don't think you've ever debunked anything I've ever said. You don't make a lot of sense.
You hate to see it, Pumper.
Vic Fangio's on record saying he's the leader of the secondary. That's one of the reasons CJ got pissed off the last time. So, it's on record, dude.
You get really mad at that.
So I don't know what you're talking about. In a bad year in coverage. And part of that was due to, losing CJ and having a rookie who wasn't necessarily in the right spots. Part of it was that. Part of it was he just didn't play well. But all the other aspects of his game were the same. And yeah, he's the leader of the secondary, which again is on the record. That's not me saying something that isn't on the record. It's on the record, and Vic has said it multiple times.
Appreciate it, Pump. Here's another one from Pump. He says, maybe Temu is not the method to success. Look at the two Super Bowl teams, biggest spenders in free agency. Trim the fat and open the checkbook.
Well, the Eagles aren't in a position. The Eagles for a decade spent more money than anybody else. And at some time, the chickens come home to roost. and they came home to roost. And they don't have a lot of cap space again, 18 million or so. Right now, and obviously there'll be adjustments all around the league. You saw Miami. It's easy to create space. The Chiefs did the Patrick Mahomes magic and created 40 million of space by changing salary to signing bonuses. But, effective cap space based on 303,500,000. Titans have 92 million. That's number one. The Eagles are at 13 million. Cap space total, they're at 18 million. Effective cap space is basically what the team will have after signing at least 51 players. So you have something called the top 51 rule. You have eventually you build up to 90 players in the offseason, but only 51. You have to be cap compliant every day, but only 50, the top 51 contracts count in the offseason. So that's what effective cap space is. So number one is Tennessee with 92 million. The Eagles are 13 million. So they don't have the ability to just go out and sign every big name that everybody wants at every single moment of time. They're not in that position. Part of the reason they're not in that position is because they have so many big names that they have given so much big money over the years. So you can't look at one off season and say, well, they should go out and spend a ton of money. Temu doesn't work. Well, you can say that to Tennessee, and you can say that to Las Vegas, and you can say that to the Chargers and the Commanders and the Jets. They have all over 60 million of effective cap space. The Eagles don't have that cap space. And if you start cutting people that you think are declining or trading AJ, you got a big hit and making things more difficult. So it's not just as easy as saying they got to sign a bunch of high-priced guys. They can't.
We'll see what they end up doing, Pump. Appreciate the super. Here's Suo Blaze. What's up, Suo? He says it's called frustration, not getting the ball. I miss the days of 6 games in a row over 125 yards, breaking records. Throw him the effing ball. It's not that hard. Well, nobody disagrees with that, Suo. The point is, it was his method to fix that, the right method. You can debate that.
Yeah, it's funny. He had that stretch, which people tend to forget. And they've had success throwing the football, but they've never been a high volume team. So that's the issue. And, I do think AJ would be happier with a high volume passing team, at least from a personal perspective. And that's probably not going to happen here. So it's going to continue to be interesting down the road. Is what it is at this point.
Here's Pump again. Suo, thanks for the super chat, brother. Pumper, thank you for the super chats. He says this. It's Jalen Hurts. It's always been that guy. One of the loneliest number rings true. His lack of leadership and increase of Met Galas hurt the team. Shaking my head.
Increase of Met Galas.
This guy's Brian Pumper is crazy.
One Met Gala. Well, technically he's right. The increase in Met Galas. I think there's far more good on Jalen Hurts' resume for the Philadelphia Eagles than bad. I don't know how anybody can debate otherwise, but there are those people.
Pump, thank you. One more from Brian Pumper. A couple minutes up here on the show. Pumper says this. Fellas, we talk a lot about everyone else's mistakes this season, but we conveniently forget that Hurts threw in a triple coverage. It's not his fault, though. LOL.
Well, it was Kevin's fault for running verticals down in that situation. So, you have a group. Obviously, there's a large group. We talk about it all the time that won't blame the players, and But then there's Pumper, you're in the blame Jalen Hurts for everything category. So there's a give and take. But when your season's, I'll tell you what, the worst thing you can do when your season's on the line, there was a split second that Dallas Goedert was open, but it was never going to get in there. But I'll tell you, the worst case when your season's on the line is and you're a quarterback and you don't throw the football. Coaching staff could have came up with a better play. Jalen could have executed better. There's a lot of blame to go around, but the issues became before fourth and what was it? Fourth and I forget now. Was it fourth and 13? What was it? I mean, that's not
11, right?
4th and 11. That's not a positive odds play. So to me, it was more about 2nd and 3rd down than 4th down. Because if you're in 4th and 11, you're especially in a condensed part of the field, you got issues.
We'll see. We'll see what ends up happening. Pump, thanks for the super chats, brother. Appreciate you supporting the show and the program as always. All right, Pump, I find you to be funny and entertaining, so we appreciate your comments as always. John, interesting offseason so far already for the Eagles. Still a lot of decisions to make for this team and a lot of different ways to go, my friend. I don't know whether to call it another – what was it called last year? What did we call it? What was the offseason called last year?
Tamu offseason.
No, not that. The maintenance offseason. That's what it was called. The stupid maintenance offseason. It sounds like we might have another one of those or a hybrid of that.
Well, I don't know why. Like it to me, I don't know why fans don't understand. Like, all right, 2025 is over. And like it didn't exist, and this is a complete, a fresh slate. Like the guys you're not paying, the guys who are not under the cut don't count. Again, right there, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. 17 teams who have more cap space than the Eagles. It's getting a little bit better. But more than half the league has more cap space than to do things than the Philadelphia Eagles. Just today, Spot Rack put out their voidable contracts that got voided this week. So this week, the voidable years that everybody loves and why they can pay the players all they pay them. Well, today the Eagles had 10 contracts void this week, creating $33.5 million of dead cap in 2026. Dallas Goedert, Brandon Graham, Azeez Ojulari, Braden Mann, Jahan Dotson, Reed Blankenship, Josh Uche, Adoree Jackson, Colin Granson, Matt Pryor. Philly now ranks 4th in the NFL with $73.8 million of dead cap. The credit card bill is coming. Because 2025 doesn't is in the rearview mirror, doesn't mean you don't still have Jalen Hurts in his contract and Saquon Barkley in his contract and AJ in his contract and Devontae in his contract and Landon and Cam and Lane and Jordan, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. It's not a clean slate. You got a bunch of stars on this team. So, they can't bring in Tyreek Hill and Mike Evans. And who else did we mention? Denzel Ward. It doesn't work that way. It's not the Dodgers. There's my theme today. It's not the Dodgers. It's not baseball.
What do you think's going to happen with that? Speaking of that.
What, baseball?
Yeah.
Yeah, they're going on strike after this season. So
enjoy your baseball. Happen? Yeah, so somebody commented to me, enjoy the year, Zander. That's it. I'm like, all right.
I don't think it's it. I've heard somebody, they're never going to play. Yes, they are. It might take a while, but.
But you've been talking about this. Like some of these sports leagues are propped up, right now. And if the dam breaks, the dam could get ugly.
Oh, it could get very ugly. It could get very ugly. Not for the NFL, but for everybody else. They're one big deal away from the financial landscape shifting dramatically. Except for the NFL. The NFL is going to be fine. But yeah, the Chiefs did the Patrick Mahomes, and that should something also they generated most cap conversions in the NFL. They never result in a player earning less cash. It's basically an accounting move that turns a salary or roster bonus into a signing bonus. And when you do that, the salary cap charge for a signing bonus can be spread out across 5 years. So you create more cap room in the year. And all these things, when a guy renegotiates, most of these things are built in there. They don't even have to get the player's permission now. Like the Chiefs didn't have to get Patrick Mahomes' permission. It's just a lever they pull, and they change his money that he's scheduled to get into a signing bonus, and then they can spread it out over 5 years and kick it 4 years down the road. So, this is accountant season in the NFL.
No doubt. All right, Johnny Mac, your final thoughts here on a Thursday edition of the show. Thought Rick Saratello was great today. Love talking with Rick. Your final thought here on a Thursday.
Yeah, get back into the draft. Good to talk to Rick, one of the best in the business. And, we started #no season. You got a big no early in the show. #no.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. All right, Johnny Mac, good stuff. I'll talk to you tomorrow. All right, man?
All right, see y'all.
All right, thanks, John. There's Johnny Mac. John McMullen joining us right here on Birds 365. Good show today. A lot of great people in here, as always. Appreciate all the great people of JAKIB Nation. All right, today I got a new setup today. Hopefully it's working all right. I had to move because this computer, you guys said the internet, all this, hopefully the internet working better now on this setup here from just slightly to the left. That's all. Just went from there to here. Just moved over about 3 feet. I got this. My desk is like this huge desk. It's not like a traditional office desk. This thing it's more like a broadcast table that I've turned into a desk because I got a great deal on it like multiple years ago, at one of the stores. And I knew the guy, and he hooked me up with it. And I'm like, yeah, I'll take that. I need a big desk. So yeah, it is what it is. Christopher says my internet's yeah, I do run an Ethernet. But apparently it hasn't been working. Is my internet trash again? Nah, are you kidding me, Michael? Don't tell me this. Don't tell me this. Please don't tell me that. I mean, I got meth. Stream is blurry. Oh, man. Brutal. Stream is blurry. Trash. Let me see what it looks like. No, it's not the camera. It's the internet. It's the internet. Damn, man. Every device. I'm splitting it too many ways, I think. I got mesh Wi-Fi in here. I got the Orb as a backup. I got the full gigabit internet. What the? Let me look. Looks all right on my phone, but nah, yeah, it's fuzzy. Yeah, it's fuzzy as hell. Curtis, I just got all new cables, dude. Literally. Just got all new Cat 6 cables. Sorry, guys. I don't know what's going on with it. You'd think I'd have this figured out by now. Rasputin, how do I do this, dude? I looked this up the other day. Prioritize. Let me ask my AI agent. Prioritize bandwidth with QoS. See, TP link is what I have. Okay, I see what you're saying here. Yeah, I need more than 1G, clearly. So we'll see. All right, guys, appreciate it. So yeah, but I'm not Mesh is my backup, Rasputin. I'm really hard. Verizon sucks, Flex. Xfinity's not much better. Network, VPN's active, firewall's active, Wi-Fi's connected, and Ethernet's connected. I don't know. I'm going to have to troubleshoot it today. Splitting it too many. Yeah, but Flex, you're not doing streaming. Streaming is a different beast. It requires a good upload speed, which mine is a gigabyte, which should be plenty. Should be plenty. Yeah, I know. Fiber. I need fiber. Yeah, it's both, Curtis. Both. You're flying. Maybe, bro. Maybe my neighbor's boosting my shit is right. What the hell, Flying Mayan? Wait, Mayan, I thought you were a Mayan. Wait, whoa, Flying Mayan. I got a bone to pick with you. Wait a second. I thought you were a socialist, Mayan. Shouldn't I be sharing my internet with everybody? Shouldn't I be giving my internet to anybody who doesn't have as much internet as me? Mayan, is this consistent with your life philosophies, Mayan? I should be a socialist with my internet. If somebody else doesn't pay for the internet that I pay for, maybe I got to give them my internet. Come on, Mayan. Come on, Mayan. Billy and Susie up the street. I owe them. Duh. How could I have better internet than them? I think Rasputin is right. I got to set up this priority. All right. Oh, the irony. I'm just messing with Flying Mine. I love Flying Mine. He's funny. All right. I like Flying Mine. Here he is. I knew he'd have a good answer. If you're asking about my political position on it, the internet should be free for everybody, considering it was developed by the government through tax dollars. So yes, free internet for everybody. Pay a tech, they'll do it in an hour. Rasputin, that's not my style. I'd prefer to figure it the fuck out myself. But I know that sometimes can be a bad philosophy. All right. That sometimes can be a bad philosophy. So we'll see. We will see. We will see what happens. All right. Eagles offseason, by the way, is an interesting offseason. All right. It's a very interesting offseason. All right. And I don't know that I feel that good about it. It feels like another pseudo maintenance offseason. And the maintenance is even worse, potentially this year. Siglord, that's a good one. I didn't really come up with anything this year. I've just been trying to do more things, but I didn't really give up anything. What I'm trying to do is less sugar. I don't really eat a lot of sugar, but I know it's not good for me. I don't know. Any recommendations? Rasputin, I'm going to put it into my my agent. Tell my agent to do a full deep dive. I really got to show. I really should do I really should make another channel and do a video on my AI setup with my devices and my routers. I mean, I kid you not, my entire post production right now for long form videos is done entirely by AI. They cut the video, they upload it, they do descriptions, they do tags, they do the SEO backend, they transcribe it into several articles that we saturate across the website. Now, I do have checks and balances built in, but it's pretty amazing what the capabilities levels are happening across the tech world. That's why, Rasputin, I'm trying to learn everything myself, because if you fall behind, I feel like in the tech world and in today's day and age, it's not going to be pretty. Here's Curtis. Something about all the coaching changes makes me think the Eagles are going to get outbid money and capital-wise for any splash players by teams being yeah, I agree. I mean, I don't know how many. There's not that many splash players out there. There's not that many splash players out there, so I don't know. I mean, think about it. Who's splash right now in free agency? Jaylen Phillips is like one of the guys. That's a splash. So maybe that is an impact, Curtis, because the Eagles won't be able to re-sign him. But broccoli, every sugar broccoli's nasty. Not that bad compared to some other vegetables, but trades as well. It's true. That's true. You guys love politics in that. Well, why does everybody love politics in this chat? Why do you guys love talking about politics? Don't politics bore you? Or can't you just sit back and just say, they all fucking suck? Literally, they all fucking suck. All right. I don't care if you're flying mine or you're not. All right. They all suck. I don't care about them. Get my house in order. That's how I view it. All right. Get my house in order. If I don't get my house in order, then I didn't do my job. Worrying about what those Joe Schmoes are doing is not a good method. Politics is the shit. It's really not. Politics does run our world. I agree with that. All right. I know you guys want to be invested into it. All right. Oh! My night owl tendencies are not meshing well. Save this. All right, here we go. Xander, you don't think Ted Cruz is cool? No, no, I don't. No, I don't. It's Rasputin. That's very true, man. That's very true. Rashawn Gary? I'd be interested in that, maybe. Well, that's what happens when you sign Michael Parsons for $40 million, $46 million. 28 years old. It's actually not a bad play there. Here's Philly fan. What up, Philly fan? What do you think about this? If Wentz never got hurt before the bowl, Eagles lose like the Pats lost this Super Bowl. Well, I mean, what do you have, Philly fan, that I don't? Some sort of crystal ball, some sort of great ability to be able to go back and bend what the outcome was? I mean, dude, the fucking outcome was the outcome. I'm not going to sit there and play, well, the Pats lost in 2026. I think the Eagles would have lost in 17. I don't fucking know. I mean, what, come on, man. Thanks for the $5 super chat, but I mean, I see you laughing. What am I supposed to do with that? Seriously, what am I supposed to do with that? Xander, have you seen the cow? No, I haven't. No, I have not. I have not invested into the Cowboys cap situation. I am in a maintenance off season for JAKIB. I have taken Howie Roseman's methodology and applied it. We got some things to clean up on the back end, all right? We got some things to clean up, and that's what I'm tending to right now. That's what I'm tending to right now. So we'll see. The war with Iran is going to tank the markets. We got all sorts of political talk today. New Jersey Democrat, they're loonies, the New Jersey Democrats. I want to sign Kyle. Kyle Pitts would be good, but he's not a great fit, I don't think. All right, I don't think he's a great fit. But we'll find out. We'll find out. We'll see what ends up happening. So far, not that exciting of an offseason, but I think there are some good things coming. I thought the draft talk was good today with Rick Saratel. I do love talking draft. The one thing that's annoying about the draft is like all the names you can think about. It's like 99% of them will not land, with the Eagles. So it's like, there's so many names you think about, you talk about. It's nice to know because then you know the league. That's the best way to know the league in the future is if you study the drafts and you see all the players that go into the league each year. But, so far it hasn't been great. Hasn't started yet. That's fair, 18. Still a little early. You got the offseason. You got the free agency period. You got the signing windows. You got the draft. Still a lot of good stuff coming. But, all right, guys, appreciate all you guys being here. All right, don't forget to hit that like button on the show today. Drop your comments down below. All right. Subscribe to the podcast. By the way, podcast doing great. Birds 365 podcast. So thanks to all of our podcast listeners. I do appreciate that. All right. Hit that like button. Appreciate all you guys being here. See you next time, everybody.
EAGLES. Eagles.